Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome back to this week's No Limits and Mitch Rapp podcast. What's new this week, Mike?
Dude, I'm just waiting to get my golf on with you this weekend at the wedding.
I know, anticipation is, I can't, this week cannot go fast enough.
Oh, man. I haven't put in my day for Friday. I'm like, I'm going to get down there a little early, play around with our boy, Tommy Smits, see you guys on Saturday. Like, I'm going to take advantage of this one.
It's going to be a fun one. Yeah, get to see you, get to see Curzan, get to see Tom Cavazos and his kid. I haven't seen his kids look big now.
Yeah. Got to see him a few months ago, but yeah, always good to see them.
That should be fun.
Yeah, well, here we are. Episode 103. We've talked about it for quite some time.
I know, we have.
It was hard putting this list together. It was a tough exercise. I feel like we're going to anger somebody out there in listener land who's, how'd you put that in the bottom 5? Or why is that one not at the top?
Yeah, I hope, I wouldn't want either Kyle or Vince to listen to this episode, but I will give a caveat, right? And I'll say it again before we actually get into the list. These books, we're comparing them to each other. We're not comparing them to other works of fiction. So, in our book, these books are amazing. There's not a bad one of the bunch. We had to actually do the hard work, put in the effort, and rank them within the series.
Right.
I would never want to pit, rank, just example what we're going to be talking about next month, like Scott Harvath versus Vince Flynn books. That's just not fun. There's nothing to do that.
We'll draw comparisons when necessary, or we'll look at key differences that make them, their own very unique universes. And, a comparison could be a very, very interesting exercise that can enlighten who these two authors were and their different craft and different interests in storytelling. But we're never going to say, oh, this book isn't as good as the other one from the other series, because you can only measure them against themselves.
Right. Exactly.
Before we get there, we've got some business, though. And this is exciting business. Scott Harvath podcast bookmarks, the No Limits Scott Harvath podcast bookmarks are on their way. Did you like that draft I sent to you, that mock-up?
It was pretty sick. I like the colors. I'm digging the vibes. We got to find a way to get those out to our patrons, man.
Dude, as soon as they come in, I bought the bookmarks. My next purchase is a book of stamps. And we're going to get those things sent out to our patrons. Even before the Scott Harvath podcast, releases our first episode in April, we want to get some bookmarks in your guys' hands. Just
in time for Rising Tiger. That's coming soon, right? July? June?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I like how they stagger. They're like, Jack Carr comes out in April-ish. Mm-hmm. And then you got Brad in the summer, and then Kyle wraps up your summer. So, you can get these nice three reads over the summer.
Right. I also, to get ready for today, I went back and listened to some of our old episodes, and it was random. Maybe our Transfer of Power one or something in the very beginning. We mentioned that the Mitch Rapp ambassador application was coming out. And so I was trying to correlate the dates. It seems in years past, the ambassador application came out in May.
Okay.
Or excuse me, no, they teased it in May. They dropped it in June, and it was due by July. So you're right. Adding to the summer excitement is also the Mitch Rapp Ambassador Program for Oath of Loyalty.
Yeah, we gotta talk to our buddy the Bus and get that arc for Rising Tiger as well.
Oh, you are right. You are right. We got to hit him up for a copy of that one.
We're the press, baby. We need that press copy.
We need the press copy. We need the media coverage with the little pamphlet, the little booklet with information about the media tour and when all the interviews are. You've got to get the scoop.
All right. Well, it is the end of the month, too, so we have to give a book giveaway.
Yes.
So you got the wheel ready, or is there no wheel? It was just giving them away.
Well, here's what I did. I posted any patrons who have not yet won an autographed book from us. So I wanted to make sure anyone who's engaged, speaking up, paying attention, reached out. We have Chris H. and Kevin B. We're going to hook both of you guys up with a Kyle Mills autographed book. Thank you so much for being with us, sticking with us. We hope you join us for the Scott Harvath podcast. Much more to come. But you guys each, Chris and Kevin, will get to pick a copy of Order to Kill, Red War, or Total Power. So reach out to us or we'll hit you up on social media. First come, first serve from those three. Order to Kill, Red War, Total Power.
See, it pays to listen to the previous episodes, guys. Keep listening.
That it does. That it does. Now, Chris, that's something special for our listeners. But as we get started, I've got a little something special for the two of us.
Oh, okay. A little gift.
I've been holding on to this, okay? Since we spoke on, must have been episode 6 or 7, I had a vision that our last pod, we would hopefully be in the room together, which unfortunately just wasn't in the cards. We still live a little over an hour or so in traffic away from each other. Random Monday night. I don't know if I'd make it out your way. So I'm going to enjoy this one tonight for both of us. And then whether it be this weekend or in the future, we shall enjoy together this sweet, sweet nectar known as Booker's Bourbon. Oh my
goodness.
Booker's Bourbon.
That looks amazing, dude. We should have that on the golf course this Saturday.
How about I bring it with me to the golf course? You and I will crack this. When's our tea time? 9 in the morning.
8:50. Who cares?
Yeah, I don't want to enjoy this one without you. You are right. Booker's uncut, unfiltered, small batch bourbon, the tag-along batch from February 2021. Man, ever since Mitch Rapp was drinking this with Chairman of the Joint Chief, General Flood, over there in the Pentagon, I just wanted to sip on some with you to finish up this pod.
That is awesome, Mike. I am touched. I wish we could crack it open right now. That is awesome.
Well,
I'm glad that Vince mentioned that it was Booker's and not like he didn't stick with, or what he transitioned to was vodka, right? I'd much rather have Booker's with you than a glass of vodka.
And now he's got craft beer. We've done that.
I know. We've done that off plenty of time. Yeah.
So let's go back and do the bourbon.
It's awesome.
Yeah, dude. Maybe we'll have to do a quick little, bring out the microphone, do a quick recording on the golf course, having a little bourbon, and keep our people updated about how it goes.
Definitely. We'll do a little rap on rap with the bourbon and the golf.
A little slur on rap. Slur our words, I'm sure.
Going ham, as Tom Smith would say.
What a weekend it will be. But before we get to that weekend, Chris, what are we doing today on the final episode, for now, of the Mitch Rapp podcast?
All right. It is an end of an era, close of a dynasty, as we conclude this season of Mitch Rapp Pod. As we mentioned, this feed will be active from time to time, just it won't be weekly anymore after this episode. But, we got to give our final thoughts on the series. I figured we could, maybe talk about a couple of moments that we really enjoyed for the series. I know you have a little tribute to Vince in the form of your favorite way to tribute somebody, a limerick.
Of course.
I just wanted to comment on what Vince said and what Kyle mean to me. And then, we've been hyping it up, I don't know, probably since day one. We got to give the final ratings. We got to rank these books, So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm excited to do this with you. It's kind of bittersweet because we're coming up on our, I don't know, we were probably just now, we just came up with the 2-year anniversary of the pandemic. So maybe 2 years ago, a couple weeks from now, we were beginning to talk about maybe doing this. I know we sat down and recorded at the end of April for the first time.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, this is 2 years in the making, man.
Yeah, this was about now when we were having those Zoom calls saying, let's record some of this, talking about these books, talking about Mitch Rapp. And by April, it got done. So I guess our 2-year anniversary as a podcast will be as we're starting the Scott Harvath stuff in a few weeks from now. Yeah,
exactly.
Being such a big moment, I like to mark special moments and occasions with a little creativity in the form of a double limerick. It's been a while since I've done a double, so I went back to a double this time. There once was a Mitch Rapp podcast. Alongside my friend Chris, what a blast. Characters we hold so dear, it's hard to not shed a tear. Alas, our time with Vince and Kyle has passed. For more stories and adventures we yearn, and so to Scott Harvath we turn. No reason to fray. Thriller Pod here to stay. About Norsemen we have much to learn.
Boom, baby. I like that. I see what you did there. You transitioned keenly right into season 2.
Dude, I'm keeping it moving. I don't want the people to think, we're taking a break. We're getting lazy. No, we're going right into it in a few weeks from now. We're moving along.
We're recording 3 podcasts this week. We are here for you. Churning out content, man.
You know what? My ending to that limerick makes me want to ask a question. And we'll have to start Lions of Lucerne with this, but Norseman's a pretty badass call sign. Are you digging Norseman or are you digging Iron Man?
Wow, that's really tough.
That's
really tough.
They both fit. I feel like they both fit the person in different ways.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. And like each respectively, when you say the Norseman and you say the Iron Man, like in the series, like most of the characters know exactly who you're talking about. Right. They just carry so much weight. I like Norseman probably a little bit better, mainly because of the reason that Scott got it. Like Mitch got his name Iron Man because he ran Iron Man.
He did Iron Man.
Like exactly. He did Iron Man. He's a badass, and he was he a professional triathlete at some point, right? But then he had to stop because he was a CIA operative. But like Scott.
Don't give away Norseman.
All right,
we'll have to bring that up next week.
But people that know,
it's a good story,
and it's way cooler than just running Iron Mans. I'll say that.
It's a story Stan Hurley would be proud of. We'll put it that way.
Like, that would be funny if, like, Scott was called Norseman for the same reason,
Oh, it would totally work.
Like, Scott Coleman,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 2 T's. Scott 2 T's. It would totally work for him, too.
Scott with 2 T's. We'll call him 2 T's versus 1 T.
Especially with the blonde hair. That name could absolutely work for Steph's favorite. You mentioned it. I want to do a little tribute to Vince. We've both spoken so much about what he means to us and this whole project. Man, I bet we have over 100 episodes. Each one's roughly an hour long. That means we have at least 100 hours of content recorded and dedicated to this man and his craft. What an incredible artist, an author, an artist, a writer, a storyteller. And so everything we've done in this podcast is a tribute to him. But if you dig into the website, vinceflynn.com, you get to know him a little bit better. There's a Q&A session where he answered a bunch of readers' questions, 2009 to 2013. There's a video archive. You could see a whole lot of video clips, interviews, news reports that he was involved in. But when I scrolled down, I thought to get to know Vince and who he was a little better, he wrote up for the website a little section on favorite and current TV shows at the time, music, and books that he was into. So I thought to honor the man a little more personally, let's see what we think about his interests. And I got to say, a lot of these are definitely things I can get behind. Batman. Did you see he mentioned watching the new Batman? Must have been Batman Begins, maybe?
2009. Yeah, that came out in 2000. No, Dark Knight came out in 2008.
Maybe Rises. Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I don't know. Or is it just like he's just into Batman in general? I mean, that's a hot take right now because we have the new Batman out, which I have not seen, but people love it or hate it.
Yeah. Or let's get meta. Maybe he was going back and watching Michael Keaton. Maybe this was written around American Assassin time.
That's funny because that's all the people have been talking now is like you're in the one camp. You're either Christian Bale Batman or you're Michael Keaton Batman. I'm a Michael Keaton Batman all the way, man.
Old school.
Probably because those are the first ones I saw, but love the Batman.
He talks a lot about Breaking Bad.
Ooh, awesome series.
I know you love that one, yeah.
Love that series. So just as an aside on the Batman, and it relates to Vince, someone said on a podcast I was listening to that Superman is a boy's hero. Batman is a man's hero. Ooh. So there you go.
Ooh.
Vince Flynn, all about that, the man's hero.
I believe
that, man. Because he's just a regular guy, man. He's just a regular guy.
I believe that.
Doesn't kill people. Fights for vengeance.
Now, let's be honest. To be a real true man, you got to appreciate art and history when it's done well. And Vince drops here that he's a huge Downton Abbey fan. And my dude, I am on board. Oh, yeah. I'm on the Downton Abbey train. Big time.
I love that series.
Fantastic.
People claim it's like, women, like it's just for women. It's not. It's not for everybody. At all. It's an amazing series.
It's for families. It's for anybody.
Yeah, and isn't the guy that worked on that also that went on to make The Crown, right?
It was the writer was Julian.
Oh, okay, maybe not, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. The British guy. Yeah.
He's the British guy. I think he's a Catholic too.
It's a great series.
Yeah, great series. They're going to make the new movie. I think it was supposed to come out this month, and then they delayed it. So, you want to honor Vince? You want to celebrate what he was into? Check out the Downton Abbey movie when it drops. Coming soon.
That's awesome. I love that he likes Downton Abbey.
Game of Thrones. Talked a little bit about Game of Thrones. Found it very compelling.
Yeah, so the series started in 2011. So I guess these are not in chronological order. They're just there.
Maybe it's a compilation of a bunch of responses he had given to fans.
Gotcha.
Through the Q&A emails on the website. Yeah, it seems they just compiled it. Because here's an earlier one. He said he's really looking forward to seeing Django Unchained in the theater. And man, that was a movie. Holy smokes.
That's an awesome movie too. He has good taste. I'm digging all these tastes that Vince has.
Yeah, that would have been 2012. Okay. Sammy L. I would like to see him in the Mitch Rapp universe. Oh yeah.
Yeah, who would he be?
Oh, dude. Maybe he could be the old man in Brad Thor.
Ooh, that'd be good. Little Carlton.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very what's his character he's in Marvel?
I was about to say Mace Windu. That is definitely not Marvel. Nick Fury.
Star Wars. Nick Fury. Yeah. Assembling, coordinating.
Reed Carlton kind of like that. Yep.
You could recast him. Would he make a decent not Stan Hurley, but
Thomas Stansfield.
Thomas Stansfield, yeah. I guess Stansfield's a little bit older than what?
Yeah.
Samuel's 70 though.
Well, no, that's what I was going to say. I think of him as younger from most of the roles I know him in. And
I think of him as younger, but he's old.
Captain Marvel, with the way they did all the, CGI to make him younger.
Yeah.
But no, I'm talking about current, kind of old man. Almost he has that grandpa kind of vibe nowadays.
Yeah, he's in this one new Apple series where he's an old dude and he gets access to all of his memories. It looks kind of wild, but he's old and looks old. I'm like, no, Sam, you're younger than that. Don't be taking these old roles. You're not there yet. Maybe when you're 80.
Man, happens to all of us. All right. I got the grays coming in, plenty of them.
That's why I keep mine short.
I like this. I like music. I am jiving with a lot of these. The first two Vince writes about, Mumford & Sons and Bob Seger. Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And I think Rapp was listening to one of the Segers in one of the books.
Remember when he puts on the Eurotrash?
Yep.
That scene sticks out of my head for some reason.
And then Kyle had him play Bruce, I think twice.
Bruce. Yeah, a lot. Yeah, the boss.
I think lately Rapp's been listening to a lot of Bruce.
Kyle must be a Bruce fan.
Vince mentions Eric Church. I'm lost on that one.
I think he's a country singer. See that
country guy.
Our listeners are going to know that we don't. Let me look him up.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's a country. I don't know that one.
Yeah, country singer Eric Church. Don't do country, guys. Sorry.
Adele. Her second album is even better than the first.
If only he could heard her latest album.
Not good or very good.
No, it's great. It's great.
Good. Oh, okay.
Oh, it's really good. Wonder if you listen to music while you write. Is that a thing? I can't listen to anything while I do stuff.
Well, he said here, I'm under the deadline, so again listening to it all. I'm getting into serious writing mode, so I'm all over the board. From Kid Rock to Little Feat, to Kenny Wayne Shepherd, to Kings of Leon, Sam Cooke, and Motown. Dude, he is all over.
I think Vince and my dad would get along very well.
At this point in the writing process, I just hit random and start typing. So he likes the random shuffle.
That's funny.
Okay. Now you know the secrets from one of the greats. All right, we got books to wrap it up. Last section Vince talks about here are some books. The Alchemist by Paolo Coelho. It's a good one, but haven't read it since like 4th grade or whatever. Maybe middle school. It was probably a little older.
Yeah, I think I read that in middle school. I spark noted all of those books up until college. It's really bad.
Here's one maybe we should cover later on our thriller pod. Mission to Paris by Alan First. And he says, First is a writer's writer. No one writes period espionage with the same flair. If you haven't read his works yet, you're missing out on one of the greatest writers on the planet. You know, and I have heard that from a few folks, so I'm thinking we got to cover some First, some old school, some classics.
All right, let's do it.
Brad Taylor gets a shout out. All Necessary Force. I can get down on some Brad Taylor. I've read not all of them, but maybe 4 or 5 of his.
I haven't read any Brad Taylor yet.
Let's see, what else is here? Stieg Larsson, you ever get into those? The girl who kicked the hornet's nest, the girl with the something tattoo.
Girl with the dragon tattoo, yes.
That's
I read so I read his the trilogy he wrote. And then when he died, also before he got to finish, he planned on like 10 books. It's funny you said that because she's powering through all of them right now. She's
really?
on the 6th one or 5th one, yeah.
Okay.
They're pretty good. The Fincher movie was really good.
I know you've talked about that before.
And if you guys can do subtitles, they did a Swedish movie. They did all 3 of the Swedish movies. So they're really good. Numi Rapace is the main character.
Gotcha. Here's an interesting tidbit for some authors out there. Vince says he's reading Starship Troopers by Robert Heinlein and Dune by Frank Herbert. When I'm under the deadline, I stay away from authors who are in my genre and typically use that time to read science fiction or fantasy. I'm shocked by how many people are surprised to hear that I like science fiction, but do yourself a favor and pick up Dune.
I'm in the middle of reading Dune right now. It's so good.
Look at this. Science fiction is so prescient in the portrayal of human nature and geopolitics, you'll find yourself gasping and nodding along with 2 seminal stories. I agree. There's so many genres that people think is escapism, but they're real deep down talking about lessons for our world that we need right now. And they're not simply about fantasy and escape and have no connection. Like, no, they're real
meaningful.
And I think Dune definitely fits the bill.
It's funny you said that because I was listening to this podcast and it was this guy who he owns the rights to the Batman movies, and he like got hired back in the day by Stan Lee and was doing a little bit of comic booking, and then he like wanted to make these a thing, and so he became the main producer. He's the one who brought like Michael Keaton, to be Batman, but he's also he teaches a class at a I forget what university on superheroes. And he was going to be the first class ever taught on superheroes. We wanted to teach it, went to the provost, and the provost was like, "No, you're not teaching a class on superheroes." And he's like, "Why?" Like, because they're stupid. They're throwaway things. They're for kids. And he's like, "Can I argue with you? And if I make a good argument, you'll make me teach the class." And the provost like just looked at him, and he's like, "All right, can you explain to me the story of Moses?" And the guy was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, just humor me. Explain to me the story of Moses. He's like, "All right, well, he's being persecuted. They kill a bunch of baby, and he has to lead his people like across the river." And he's like, "All right,
it's the hero's journey." Joseph Campbell.
Explain to me the story of Star Wars. Like,
same thing.
You kill a bunch of Jedi Padawans. It's like, it's the same story.
Dude,
I mean, they're all like rooted in like the Bible, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Joseph Campbell is the one who posited that theory of the monomyth.
The hero's journey.
And that there's actually the hero's journey in it's like 12, 14 steps or whatever. But like, it's the basis of storytelling, you know, like every good story goes back to this monomyth of the hero leaving, you know, the known, going out into the unknown. Yeah, there's like a whole process and formula to it. It's definitely taught in academic circles and whatnot. You know,
nowadays, but this was like back, like, you know,
true.
When comic books were just nerd. Now comic books are like in the culture, you know.
Right. It's true. Yeah.
You could argue the same thing with thriller stuff. Like that was always just sort of throwaway, and now you can't. We're getting how many series come to these? You know, with the Terminal List, Jack Reacher, the Gray Man.
Yep.
You know, they're here. They're here to stay. They're more than just, you know, throwaway novels.
Absolutely. All right, guys. That was a little books, music, TV recommended by Vince Flynn himself. There's some gems here on the vinceflynn.com site if you dig into their Q&A and video archive. So get into it.
Go watch Breaking Bad.
Vince loved it. And Downton Abbey. Breaking Bad followed by Downton Abbey. Oh, boy.
There's a double feature. All right, Mike. I thought it would be cool if we could we sort of did this maybe a couple months ago. Do you have any favorite moments, like standout moments from the first season that, you know, you would say are in your top 3?
Oh, man. I'm going to lump together getting a new book, the lead up to Total Power, and then getting ready for Enemy at the Gates was just so much fun. Talking to the ambassadors, you and I chit-chatting, seeing what the social media team, you know, at vinceflynn.com had to put out, getting the arcs, all that buzz was just a delight with and this podcast. I don't think I ever would have been so excited or amped for a book release if we weren't doing this podcast. So to me, that was just some of the more memorable times that we've had together. What's up there for you?
Yeah, probably would be meeting authors, you know, just being able to see how, you know, available these guys are people are to talk and discuss their stuff, and they're just normal people. Like, that's super cool. Like, I would have never thought, like, I was over the moon when we found out we could, you know, potentially interview Kyle, and now we've gotten to talk to him 3 times, you know, and hopefully we'll be able to get to talk to Brad, and we got to talk to Jack, and even like some other authors that I would have never, you know, you've found, because you're our scheduler, and, you know, being able to talk to like Fred Burton, you know, It's been great. Probably the other thing sort of related to that is just like connecting with other podcasts. You know, we have friends in the comm majors, and you know, Jason Piccolo, we're going to be going on his pod in a week. You know, just meeting people in this community, the Body Man. I mean, he's an author as well. Crew reviews guys.
Yes,
you know, just that. Yes. And probably like the biggest takeaway is just, I don't know, I've been able to hang out with you once a week, like Absolutely. At least once a week for the past 2 years. It's been probably the best thing that's came out of the pandemic.
Oh, I would 100% agree. And that's why we're going to crack open some Booker's bourbon this weekend to celebrate just that friendship right there. Yeah, all great things. Just those people you mentioned that we met. Stephen Hendricks and his book reviews with his drink pairing. Just so many good people. I think we're going to try to reconnect moving forward, or down the road, our No Limits book club. I think we got to reconnect with a lot of these names you just dropped and have them back on and do some more fun, exciting things with them, because you're right. Building a community, it's got to be the best thing that came out of this project. The people. Oh, and our virtual hangouts, dude. Our patrons.
Yes, I was going to say that. Our patrons and our listeners, just all of you guys. Like, the fact that we get the amount of people that listen to this podcast once a week, it's crazy. Like, would have never thought. And when I tell people like I do a podcast, and like they're like, "You do a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah, people actually want to listen to us." Like, for some reason, I don't know why.
I don't.
But they do, and we love them.
I don't get it. But we're glad you're here.
Yes.
Yeah, and let's be honest. Going back to the beginning, I don't think neither you nor I expected this to be a weekly commitment or a weekly show. we were going to record one book per month. We tried 3 episodes on a book, and then we went, 2 episodes per book fit better. But really, that would mean we have 2 episodes a month. We skip a couple of weeks every month. Just weren't sure how it was going to take off. The moment, though, you guys all listened in, chatted us on social media, we knew you were interested in it and enjoying it. We just wanted to commit to giving you more. And then when our first patrons joined us, you gave us the energy. I mean, it was instantaneous, Chris. Once we saw all these people enjoying the show, we committed to it. I remember you and I just said, like, if we're doing this, let's do it. Let's give it to the people. And I don't think we've missed a week. Have we missed a week in these 2 years?
Maybe once. I don't know. We've always tried to back record, fill record, stuff like that. So yeah, we give it to you. We wouldn't be here without you. So.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Remember, starting next week, you can subscribe to the Scott Harvath podcast. So just search that up, Apple, Spotify, any podcast player, and we'll have a new feed that you can start listening to. Don't leave this feed. We'll be back for Oath of Loyalty and plenty other bonus content every once in a while. So we hope you join us on both podcast feeds.
All right, Mike.
It's time.
It's time. There's one last thing we got to do before we wrap up this season. We got to do it. It was hard. How hard was it to do this last week?
I think the fact that we've spoken about it in drips and drabs helped me out, but it was really hard to put it down on paper. But I think we put in the energy, the forethought to put this all together over the years, but definitely over the last few weeks. So it was tough, but I kind of had a sense of what would round out my bottom 5. I think we clarified that over the last couple of weeks and months. So that was
we've clarified
thankfully
that.
Pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, how about we do that? We'll start with the bottom 5, or we'll go 16 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
What did you have at 21?
I had to put in the bottom spot Pursuit of Honor. You got that there in 20,
and
right?
For 20,
yep.
20 you had Executive Power.
So our bottom 2 spots, Executive Power, Pursuit of Honor. Darn, even those books had so much good stuff in them. The Lincoln Memorial scene with Maggie Nash, and then Executive Power, the jungle scene with Wicker, Scott, and guys on the ground. There's so much good stuff.
But I think for a while we had known that those were going to be at the bottom. They just kept on falling down and down and down. But you got something has to make the bottom, so they made the bottom.
Yeah. Our next clump, you and I also had similar. Our next 3 spots, I put Kill Shot in 19, followed by Red War and Total Power. Again, couple of great promising things in those books. Overall, they weren't doing enough to connect the series. And so if they're not connecting to other parts in the series, and at the same time they're not killer standalone books, they kind of are bridging the world of, am I a standalone? Or am I an important part in the storytelling? They kind of wavered on that.
Yeah, I had Total Power 19, Kill Shot 18, Red War 17. And I agree with you. The Kill Shot should be higher up.
Right.
And I've said this before. I think if we got whatever the 3rd book in Kill Shot, that would elevate it. Kind of like how, we're going to get to this in a little bit, but originally when we read Order to Kill, that was way further down than when I eventually put it, but the other books elevated it back. This Enemy at the State,
right,
elevated that book,
right.
So I feel like Kill Shot maybe has a chance. Maybe we get the conclusion, but just there's too many loose ends, and like you said, with Red War and Total Power, just felt different. So for me, that they had to go here at the bottom.
Yep. 16, we both clocked in with Protect and Defend.
Protect and Defend. Yeah.
I mean, if you asked me about that book, I cannot say anything more than Kennedy was taken. Honestly,
exactly.
That's all I know.
Yeah, the whole, she gets taken and then she goes to that place. I guess, are they in Iraq or? Are they in Iraq or Iran?
I think Iraq.
No, not Iraq.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the town. Basra? I think they're in Basra.
Yeah, like that's the only thing that sticks out to me from that when I like recall. So it's just,
Is that where the nuclear facility is hit by that Israeli spy on the inside?
I think that's early on in the book.
I think it opens that way.
Yeah, and some of these ones that like the first half doesn't connect to the second half, they tend to be down towards the bottom of our list. Like Executive Power is, point in case, just like that, two books in one.
It's funny you say that because every book we mentioned so far, I have half of it that would literally be on the top side of this list. Like it would be in the top 10.
Right.
But then the other half of it is definitely
down.
bottom 10 or bottom 5.
Right.
So just I think a big component for both you and I was being a complete book, a complete story.
Definitely.
And you're not making the top 10 unless you had that.
Yep, exactly.
Which is why Order to Kill for me is the next spot, 15, not bottom 5. It moved up, but dude, it has some of the best action scenes on the motorbikes going through, it's in Pakistan. Is it Islamabad? But man, taking those motorbikes through the streets and then introduction of Grisha, so cool in Order to Kill, so promising. But it fizzled. And because it fizzled towards the ending in the second half, I gave it the 15 spot.
Yeah, Order to Kill is a little bit higher for me. I put it at 13. Just like the attack on Scott.
Yeah.
For me, it's like it's in the bottom half of this list because of the I felt like the ending was a little bit rushed and like at some points it was confusing, the whole like chase scene between Rapp and Grisha. But for me, 15 term limits. I'm on that term. It didn't make. It's just outside the top 5, just like I said last week. But it just the Scott stuff. I can't get over it. I can't get over it.
Hey, I got it out of the bottom 5 for you, so I'll take that.
But
W.
you reminded me of some key things, like the fact that it cements these new characters, and we get a lot of Skip McMahon. We learned a lot about Irene Stansfield, like that's what brought it back up.
Right. Yeah, I'll give it to you. So learning about characters, we both gave the 14 spot to Act of Treason, though I will say this one very well could have moved up the ranks a few spots. Not much higher, but it could have moved up the ranks because you get Alexander. Pretty cool to be inside the Secret Service. And Agent Rivera was pretty memorable. The dojo scene where she fights Rapp. I feel like that book was doing some good stuff. And then a chase scene across like rooftops in Cyprus, Nicosia, or a town in Cyprus. There were some really cool things. It's just in the end, it's not the most meaningful book to the series. So you meet Alexander, there's a transition, but that's all. I feel like the substance isn't really there for that book.
All right, so 13 I had Order to Kill. 13 you had The Third Option.
Again, another one I really wish.
Little low.
It is. I really wish I could push this one higher too, but hey, that's way better than what I scored it on our first read through, which
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I shouldn't have done it. I think I gave it a C.
You gave it a C+ and a 5.5, which again,
horrible.
Those don't correlate with each other.
It doesn't make sense.
A 5.5 would be an F, but C+, third option? Go on,
that was a mistake. It's easily a B or a B+ book. Yeah. It had to be in the 10 to 13, 10 to 15 range, so I gave it the 13 slot. I appreciate that book. I do.
Okay. Now, so 11 and 12, 10, 11, 12, we have the same exact books. We did these separately, guys. Like we
did. We didn't look.
I wrote down on my list and I imported it into this shared document, and you did it as well. So I have at 10 Enemy of the State, 11 Separation of Power, 12 is Enemy at the Gates. Enemy at the Gates, good book. You're cracking dead
Top
middle
half.
of the pack.
Top half.
Yeah. For you have Enemy of the State 10, which we both have. Enemy of the Gates 11 and Separation at 12. Interesting you put Separation below Enemy of the Gates.
I think maybe
Hank
that's
Clark,
some recency. Man. Maybe some recency bias.
It could be some recency bias. Could be.
We haven't read Separation in a while. And I think outside of Hank Clark being so awesome, which he is over the course of like 3 books.
Yeah.
So he's great, but then there was, that impersonation scene where Rapp goes
and Donatello,
into the
that's the Donatello book,
that's
right?
Donatello. Yeah. Ooh. But then again, I do like the idea of Nicholas Ward, and I do like the intrigue of the Cooks. I'm going to say that's a toss-up. The 11-12 spot could be either one of those, Enemy at the Gates or Separation. But I think you'll agree, because we both had it in the 10 spot, Enemy of the State definitely deserves to be above both of those.
Oh yeah, just like the team up, the being a man out of place, man out of time aspect of it was really cool. It's almost like tending towards being like one of these one-off books, but it's like a one-off book that worked better than, like, let's say Total Power or Red War did, if that makes sense. I don't know, like it to me that more connected with the series, even though, like we said, like Order to Kill, to follow that up, like Red War should actually come right. Like we felt like Red War made more sense coming right after Order to Kill. But yeah, and Enemy of the State is such a good book. It has to be in the top 10.
I think I also put it that high because it was a surprise. I remember going into it, I was like, how does Kyle get us there after this nuke goes off in Saudi Arabia?
Right.
How does Mitch, one, survive this, and how does he wrap things up with Grisha? There's no way he's friends with Grisha in Red War after 2 books earlier basically getting exploded by a nuke in Saudi Arabia and barely escaping. How does he all of a sudden befriend Grisha? I thought Enemy of the State sold me on that. And how do you have Donatella come back for a one-off? It sold me on that. And Donatella's writing was so perfect, almost just exactly like Vince would have done her. Sassy, dangerous, perfect.
I was going to say that I think Kyle might have wrote Donatella like a little bit better than Vince. Like, yeah. I like the character a little bit more after, like, I liked her a lot in Separation, but I liked her a little bit more after Enemy of the State.
Yeah, so that's why it had to make top 10.
Yeah. All right, we're in the top 10. What do you got at the 9 spot?
I gave it to Term Limits, which we're all very clear why I put it up there. But you bumped the third option up into the 9 spot. Tell me about that.
Third option, it's got to be top 10, man. I remember like reading this book and going back on it. Maybe because at the time I was in the middle of reading the original Born series by Ludlum. And it just read so much like the first one, like the identity. Like I was just vibing with it. And even to this day, like thinking back on that, I liked it a lot. This idea that, you know, one is that opening line, like there is this third option, you know, diplomacy, you know, war, and then there's Mitch Rapp essentially. And just like this, again, a man out of place. He thinks his government has turned on him. He doesn't know what to do. And you really see Mitch doing spy stuff in that book, which you don't see a lot. Like, he is a spy, but he's more of like a heavy muscle spy, you know, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I just love that book.
Yeah. I should move it up. I honestly, like I said, I think it had a rightful claim to the 11-12 spot. I gave it 13. I think the one thing I recall not liking about it was we kind of just cycled through hired killers. It was the
Peter
Jansons.
Cameron stuff was right. Tough, I guess.
As the professor, he wasn't. You didn't really want to love to hate him. You kind of just thought, oh, he's not very good at what he does, but you didn't like hate him.
Right.
And then like Doozer comes in and shoots up the Jansons, and then someone else comes by and just shoots up Doozer, and like it was just next man up just kills the current one up, and then it's just like a cycle. And I don't know, a little drawn out for me, but yeah, I love the spycraft. The Mitch as a spy stuff is awesome. All right, these next few we sort of have them in a clump. Have to make the top 10. Have to.
Yeah,
The Survivor.
We're getting to like the hard stuff now. Like it's just we have all the right books. It's just what order you have them in.
I think at this point, everyone that's left, total argument of why they deserve these top 10 spots and why most of them deserve a top 5 spot. Yeah, you're legit in doing that. But I went with The Survivor as number 8. Really love that book. Really, really love it. For Kyle's first book, seamless transition from Vince to Kyle. It was perfect. It was what was needed at the time.
Yeah, I have it a little bit higher at 6. I totally agree with you. To me, I don't, and maybe because I read it like not at the time when the transition happened, but like I don't see where the criticism comes from. It's perfect, you know.
Right. I think everyone who said they didn't like it was just an emotional reaction and having a hard time, right? Like,
sure,
with the transition and the loss. Like, it's a great book.
Yeah, for me, I put the American Assassin at 8. I might get a little flack for that, not having American Assassin in the top 5, but I mean, it's good. It's good, but it's not top 5 material.
I had a hard time with this too. I was tempted to say, oh, it has to be top 5. It's classic. And then I settled on the 7 spot. I settled it's just a little bit better than The Survivor, but I couldn't find a reason to put it any higher in that it was really novel when it came out. And I remember being blown away by it, the origin story. But not much more than the training stuff and the Hurley stuff withstands the test of time. You know, outside of Rapp killing the guy on the bench, his first kill, what other badass stuff did he do after training? He met with the Greta and her family.
I like the part where he gets taken, where he like determines he's gonna like get taken.
That's true.
And I'm wondering if maybe, you know, like the whole opening scene, and then you come back to it from a different perspective, like in the second half, like to kick off the second half of the book. I really like that. I'm wondering if maybe I have it lower because of the way I read it. Like, do people have more affection for this book if they start out the series with it? Because I read them in publication order, so I had already known Mitch pretty well before I, you know, dove into the American Assassin. Yeah, it's good. Like it's very good. It's in the top 10, but it's not top 5 material.
I mean, it's great. It's great, but to be top 5 of Vince Vaughn books, it's hard to. It's like you have to be legendary, not just great. All right, I want to hear your 6 because my 6 spot might be a little controversial. So I'm gonna let you give us or your 6, 7.
Yeah. So 6, I had The Survivor, and below that I had Extreme Measures, which I don't know. That book is really good. I'm thinking I maybe want to do a flip flop on that. Put it at 6 and put Survivor at 7, but I'll stick to I don't know why. Like when I was doing that, I did that. Extreme Measures is a very good book. Maybe because it's, you know, all the, you know, the fact that Mitch is not in it as much. You know, it's more of a Mike Nash story as opposed to The Survivor. Like, but yeah, I still can't believe what you put at 6 though.
All right. Well, Extreme Measures is so good. It got the 5th spot for me. And this was a hard decision. This is where it got hard. Since I moved Extreme Measures up to the 5 spot, I don't know if I just wanted to be edgy here or not. I'm not sure how this happened.
You're being contrarian here. You're being contrarian.
I've got Consent to Kill in my 6th spot outside of the top 5.
Outside the top 5. I cannot believe it. That's the hottest take of the pod.
I know most people will have it as 1, 2, and almost everyone will say it's got to be 1, 2. It's a stretch if you put it in 3. But I was going through these other ones on my list, and they hold a lot of meaning for me. I stand by Consent to Kill's epilogue, and the Anna storyline is so meaningful. And I think the epilogue is Vince's best written scene ever. But as a whole, the book was long, and I tried thinking to myself, what is some of the action in it? And I'll be honest, I couldn't come up with anything besides one. Rapp killing at that house, the 13 dudes who attack the house, the gangsters. Really cool. Sure. Great. Awesome scene. But outside of that and the very end, putting the incendiary grenade down, the mullah's throat, I couldn't come up with other action. And so when I thought of the extreme measures hit at the NCTC, I was like, dude, that action has to carry the day and give it the edge. It was basically Mike Nash, his introduction, and the NCTC hit versus the Anna and the house explosion and the house in Leesburg where Rapp kills the 13 dudes. And I had to give the edge to extreme measures.
Don't agree with that, but
okay.
It's your personal ranking. It's your personal ranking.
I did it. That's it.
So you had extreme for 5. For 5, I had The Last Man.
Great book.
Like, an amazing last book.
Great
for Vince. And I think like the way that like Enemy of the State elevates Order to Kill, I feel like The Last Man elevates The Survivor by like teeing it up for the logical progression, and just the fact that for the first half of the book you don't know who the villain is, or you think you know who the villain is, and then like when you get that drop that Rickman is the bad guy and he's turned on the CIA, like that's just awesome. So I had to put The Last Man here. Last Man has to crack the top 5.
I 100% agree, and because of what you said, I bumped The Last Man to the 3 spot.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'll ride with that.
I kicked it up there. On reread, I remember thinking, oh my goodness, this is the last book by Vince Flynn that you and I are going to get to cover on the pod. And I don't know what it was in me, but it just raised that book to another level.
Right.
That book was so good, and there was so much going on in it. And Louis Gould coming back. So that's another thing with Consent to Kill. And forgive me here. I listened to our part 1 and part 2 episodes on Consent to Kill again. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to be fully prepared that all the flack I'm going to get for putting it out of the top 5. I listened to those pods again. And you know what? After the first episode, you and I didn't really talk about much besides they're trying to hire a killer. You had Abel meeting with that like Soviet dude smoking cigs and drinking, scotch on a porch. And they go, okay, let's go talk to Claudia. And then Claudia is negotiating money. How much money can we get for the hit? Then Louis Gould comes in, and then they're talking about that. And I was like, I know I love the book, and that's cool stuff, but not much else happened in like 300 pages, but they're hiring a killer. Oh, but there's the pregnancy.
I mean, when you
stuff,
put it like that,
awesome.
I guess I see, but just like the progression and the culmination of that book just elevates it so much for me. Like, no surprise, I have it as my number 1. Like,
yeah, there you go. All right, so basically, when I was listening to our chat about it, that was rambling on, and I'm like, you know what? The first half, not much happens, but there are the pregnancy announcements. Claudia and Louis finding out at pretty much the back-to-back chapter, where Anna tells Mitch. So that was awesome, and I love that piece, and how that concludes in the epilogue is for me amazing. I couldn't find enough meat outside of that storyline to make Consent better or higher. Okay. Where The Last Man, I feel like, had it. And my other one in the 4th spot, Lethal Agent, I feel had it. And so I'm not pandering to Kyle. I am legit saying I think one of your books, Lethal Agent, was better than Consent to Kill.
Wow.
Get at me, listener land. Come at me. It's fine. I can handle it. That's what I came up with.
Well, so I also have Lethal Agent for number 4. I agree with you that this is hands down Kyle's best book. The originality of the story,
Saeed Halabi.
Saeed Halabi. It's well written. The freaking going to Mexico, like all those scenes, and I still have it in my top 5 even after like freaking Kyle, after the pandemic, which came out well before the pandemic. It's it's hard. It is Kyle's best book. I think. It'd be interesting to see what other people think is Kyle's best book, but
that's true.
Me and you at least agree that it's the Lethal Agent.
Mitch in the desert, Mitch in Yemen.
Yeah. When
those dudes are after him and he shows up in the cafe, all haggard.
Right.
Like it's awesome stuff.
Yeah, and he has to split up with Scott, right? And he goes on his own. He just shows up. Like he's able to for 3 days just make it on his own. That's freaking awesome.
To draw the guys off of Scott and crew so they can get out.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, love that one. It gets the 4th spot for me. Which there's 2 names left. We know Your Consent is in number 1. 2 names left that are definitely going to slot into my top 2 spots. Because I had Last Man in 3rd. What did you have in 3rd?
So for 3rd, I had Transfer of Power. Kicks this story off. It's so good. I think why I ultimately put Consent and Memorial Day above it is because the ending was probably its weakest part. Just the way, again, how it rushed to the ending. But the whole progression leading up to that is just, it's you got 98% of the way there and then just quickly tailored all, at the end. I wanted more, but I love Transfer of Power. That's why I stand by you should read Transfer of Power first.
I agree. Yep. And
so
that's
you have it number 2.
Transfer of Power is number 2 for me. Definitely. Everything you said, you can get new readers into it. It was the first ever introduction to Mitch Rapp. The Farah Harut scene and his first kill, that guard outside, just classic. So, knowing me with nostalgia, Last Man in 3rd place, Transfer of Power in 2nd place, because those books have just personal meaning. The first and the last Mitch Rapp books written by Vince. But also nostalgia for me, and perhaps again, I'm showing my bias here. I understand. Memorial Day. First book I ever picked up. I think the pacing, the action is perfect. Actually might be the best I've ever read in a thriller. The way it's paced, it's definitely in this series the number 1 book you cannot put down, start to finish. And the way Transfer of Power ended too quickly and you didn't get enough of that final scene, Memorial Day
doesn't.
Oh, it delivers on that final scene.
Yes.
It delivers on the opening where we actually see Rapp in a combat scenario, possibly for the first time ever, embedded with that SEAL unit or I think it's a Delta unit. So it's the first book I ever read. I think it's the best with pacing, the best with action, the best conclusion. I almost struggle to put it lower because there's no Scott, there's no Wicker, there's very little Marcus.
Just Mitch. It's just Mitch.
There's almost no Irene. But another thing that got me over that hump was it works as a standalone if you want to bring someone into the series. You can argue American Assassin versus Transfer of Power. Which one should people start with? But that's assuming somebody wants to do the series.
Sure.
If you have someone who they're not sure if they're going to read a whole 20-book series, I drop a Memorial Day then.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that.
That's the book you can give to anybody. It can stand on its own. If it was filled with Scott and Marcus and Irene and crew just to have them, maybe it would have been harder to get a random one-off reader into it because they're missing out on that. So I think it's great as a book you can pass to people to get them into the series. Then once they're committed, because they love Mitch, you can start with Transfer to meet, President Hayes, Stansfield, Irene, and everyone. Or you can start with American Assassin. You can meet Stan Hurley. So I thought Memorial Day gets a pass that it doesn't have all those people because it's really the only book that I would say as a standalone to someone, hey, read this.
Yeah, no, I never really thought about that, but you're totally right. Just thinking back, it is a Mitch book, and the story is great. It's well paced. Whereas you would never start someone off with Consent to Kill.
Right.
You can't do that. That you almost have to read all the books leading up to Consent to Kill to really appreciate it.
Right.
But to me, the reason I have Memorial Day is number 2, but the reason I had Consent to Kill number 1, I just felt that Consent is his best written book.
Okay.
And that's what I went with. I think from start to finish, yeah, the story may lack at times, but just it pulls, and like just that scene where Anna dies is just crushing, you know. And maybe that should be dinged, because you have to weigh on all of this previous knowledge in order to have that be, you know, an impact. But to me, it elevated it in terms of, you know, the transition we then see Rapp go into, and his hardship. We see like a new side of him. Yeah, I don't know. That's why I had consented him. But Memorial Day is a very close second. It's almost like 1A, 1B for me. But
and Transfer of Powers are really close behind.
Really
Memorial
close
Day.
third. Like those three books are, for me, you know, just stand out. It's A+, A++, A+++, you know.
All right, let me make a promise to you and the listeners. You know how we did a rewind of term limits? I'm willing to promise that at some point in the somewhat near future, we're going to be busy with Scott Harvath, but our next rewind, let's do Consent to Kill. I think it deserves a closer reread from me. It really does. And I think it deserves a revisiting from both of us to talk about. So hopefully, so you can convince me to put it in the top 5. So for anybody a little disappointed where I put it in the 6th spot, I promise I will do a reread with an open mind and attempt to drop some of my biases. But how do you kick out Memorial Day, Transfer of Power, The Last Man, Lethal Agent, Extreme Measures? Oh man, they could all be top 1 or 2. Like, they all can be.
It's hard to do. It's a hard exercise, yeah. It's funny we're arguing over Consent to Kill, but it's probably not going to be what's a backlash. It's going to be someone who said, "You put Pursuit of Honor at 21? That's my favorite book." Or Dawn saying, like, Red War 18? Come on.
Right, Dawn would put that in the top 5 for sure. I feel like we talked about it when we did Red War. We kind of had high hopes because we were like, oh, the Krupin / Putin and Grisha stuff. Like, oh yeah, that some cool stuff happens there. But then when we read it, it was like the bird watching. I don't know if I could buy that.
No, I just wanted Krupin to be more crazy, more lose his mind. You know?
Oh, like invade a neighboring country, perhaps.
Well, he did, but
oh yeah, he did. And Mitch stopped him. Mitch
stopped him. We need Mitch and Scott right now. You know,
they stopped him in his tracks. Yeah. Or the person who's like, separation of power at the 12 spot. That's got to be number 11 at least.
Exactly. People are not going to be angry about your Consent to Kill take. They're going to be something completely random. You know.
Oh man.
I mean, that was fun. That was a fun exercise. You know, maybe when we're removed a year from now, go back and look at this list and agree with it, disagree with it. We'd love to hear from you guys. What are your top 5? If you want to give us all 21, please. You know, we would love to hear what you know. Most of these are personal picks. Like, we have connections to each of these stories. We pick certain things from each of these stories. You know, because most of them are very different, right? And each one has its own unique thing. And me and you have pretty similar tastes, but we pick things that we like because, you know, you had to pick your. I love your take on this, the fact that Memorial Day can be given to anyone, and it is a standalone, and it kicks them off for the series, and that's great. You know, other people may love Memorial Day just because of the freaking badass ending scene and the nuke, you know, actually goes off in a mountain.
You know, there are none of these, as I look over the list, where you and I differed by more than a few spots, except for Consent to Kill, which might just show that I'm straight up wrong. That is a possibility.
And term limits,
but we've hashed that one out plenty of times. Everything else, everything else, I think, is within 2 slots, or at least in the same chunking, in the same grouping. Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be more differences, but we didn't.
Right. We kept it kind of similar.
All right, well, that's it, guys. That's the last episode for now. Before I give us a send out one more time, I just wanted to say a big, huge thank you to you, to Mike, to our wives for putting up with us doing this podcast.
Yes.
I told Caroline, I was like, yeah, tonight's the last episode. She's like, the last episode? Great. So you're going to be done with this thing forever?
Well.
No, of season 1. She's like, season 1? There's a season 2?
There's a season 2 plus. There's a season 2 and season then even 2, more on top of that.
And even more, yes. But I got to say a big, huge thank you to Vince. You know, I'm not the writer of limericks like you are, but he means a lot to me, and I didn't realize how much he did. He's brought me and you together. He's brought me and this community together. Anyone in his life is probably not going to hear this, but I felt like I needed to say, you know, thank you. You know, I wish he was here. Yeah, I wish we could still get his books. Of course, got to say thank you to Kyle. He's been gracious with his time, with allowing us to pick his brain, and kicking out some pretty good stories as well. So thank you to Vince.
And a big thank you to David yes. Brown, publicist of the books, and your team at Simon & Schuster. All you've done to include us, to hook us up, to really support this project. James at Best Thriller Books and VinceFlynn.com on social media, giving us the word, helping us get the name out there. Hopefully we've helped you sell books. That's the goal. Let's bring some readers to Mitch and Irene. Anyone we can get on board. That's what we wanted to do here. But just a huge thank you. To show our thanks, we're going to drink this bottle of Booker's for Vince, for you all, for sticking with us. And Chris, when you close us out, how about instead of our tagline, just let Mitch be Mitch, let's close it out with Vince's tagline. Keep the faith. What do you say?
All right. Well, we need to thank our patrons, including our special operator, Sherry F., our special agents, Daryl, Kevin, George, Matt, Dawn, Dennis, Peggy, Catherine, Ray, Bridget, Jeff, and Mark. Please subscribe, rate, and review using your favorite podcasting platform. You can find us at mitchrappod.com or at thrillerpod.com or on Twitter and Instagram at mitchrappod. And as always, keep the faith.
All right, hole 10, here we are. We are fully stacked, ready to go. We're in the tunnel to the 10th tee.
Just played 9.
How you feeling, Chris?
Feeling great. Just had my first real par of the day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You rounded out that 9 with a beauty of a par. Was that a chip-in or a long putt?
It was a long putt. Long putt.
20 feet, I would say?
Yeah.
That was a 20-footer for par. This man's on fire. Going to carry it to the back 9. And it's a windy day.
Very windy.
You can tell.
It's a windy day.
But we're going to take a quick pause here before we tee off. Chris, I got a little something for you. A little congratulations on the podcast. This one, Chris, I had picked up, and I said, this is for my boy. After the 100th episode, end of Mitch Rapp Pod, moving on to season 2. My good sir.
Oh my God. Look at that.
There it is. Now open it up.
Come on.
Little Dear Chris.
Dear Chris. Best. Who is that?
That is Vince Flynn himself, the master.
You found one that said Chris?
Somehow on eBay, I found a Dear Chris, signed by Vince Flynn and American Assassin.
That's awesome.
That's it.
That's sick. I have a signed copy that says to Chris. Not this Chris, but
not
some
that Chris. Thank you to the other Chris.
Yeah,
we appreciate your service.
American Assassin. What a way to end our season 1. That's awesome.
Tune in. Season 2, Mitch Rapp Pod, coming at you. And how about I smoke this drive?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
Boom, baby.
Chris, how you feeling about that one?
I feel pretty good, Mike.
Nice, nice. You almost got that 100 marker.
Almost.
You were there.
I've been out of the game for a little bit, but it was good. It was a good one. And Martini treated me with an amazing gift. I wish I'm a little bit down to the weather, so I wasn't couldn't give it my 100 self, but I just want to say I am touched with the gift that you gave me. A signed copy by Vince Flynn, American Assassin, to Chris. Somehow he managed to get that.
Chris. When I saw that, I was like, I am not giving this one away to our listeners. I'm giving this to my firm daddy.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I'm touched. I'm going to start crying.
Dude, you saying you didn't give me all of you today? You gave me 150%. You gave me everything you had in the tank. You emptied the tank for me today, and I appreciate it.
I kept you grounded.
Yes, you did.
I try to keep you calm. It was good. It was good. Now we got to go crack open the bookers, man.
Dude, you will get some live action of bookers. Church parking lot? No, we'll do it at the hotel.
Yeah, hotel.
Yeah,
in the good old Irish Gap, you know.
Right before the reception, exactly. Yeah. We're gonna bust out of that church and we're gonna crack it open.
So we got 18 in.
We did all 18, dude. I was expecting to play 9 holes today.
Me too.
9 holes, and we did 18 in just under 4 hours.
I was expecting to have to pay for the 9 holes too.
Free 99. You can't beat it.
It's good to have friends that have weddings at golf courses, and those friends don't golf.
It's perfect. And there's supposed to be a little rain in the forecast, a little cloudy and overcast.
No rain.
Sunny, and the car's reading 75 right now.
Beautiful.
What a day.
All right, that was live with the No Limits boys from Richmond, Virginia, baby.
That's it. Give me a little swirl there, Chris. What are you thinking?
It's amazing. Everything I always wanted in a bourbon.
Indeed.
Something that I really think Mitch would drink.
Absolutely. Dude, with General Flood.
Yeah.
General Flood.
There you go.
He's the man. General fucking Flood.
So, cheers to you, Mike.
Cheers. Hold up. I'm just putting this on the rocks. Let me see if you can hear this. Nope. You might not hear that ice in the plastic cup. The plastic bathroom cup of the Springfield Suites? Spring Hill Suites. There it is. Cheers. And enjoy. It's good on the rocks.
Put an ice cube in it.
You can hear the girls in the background, of course, who we promised to bring on the pod and didn't quite come to fruition, did it now?
This time we're going to read a book and surprise you.
Scott Harvath! They'll be at the spa. We'll be golfing and talking Mitch Rapp.
All right.
Okay. At work, Scott Harvath, I should say. Let me get some of that.
Now that I'm like back.
There it is. And down the hatch.
I have a Kindle.
It's good on ice.
It's
good on the rocks, yeah.
She said she loves you and she supports you.
Your mom is listening to more podcasts. And then she stopped listening because I cursed. You guys are pretty vulgar.
Yeah. I do think in season 2 we got to cut that out. I'm going to limit it. I think that's my goal.
We should limit it.
I'm not going to cut it out, but I'm going to limit it. We talked about having the girls on forever. Rosie read half of it.
It's good.
I would say more like
you guys curse a lot.
A fourth? Yeah, we do. All right, my goal, my promise to you and the people.
It does say, it has a little E on our podcast. So.
No, it does. On select episodes.
Oh, you only put it on select episodes?
I only put it on the few. So the explicit on Apple Podcasts, you have to pick if you mark it explicit or not. If we're ripping, I'll put it, but I think it's only been 2 or 3 episodes.
Oh, okay.
The ones where I really go off.
We're just...
Most I let it slide. Well, we should warn the children. We got to warn the children. Dude. Fucking 3/4 of a bottle of bourbon gone. I was saving this for you. You see it? The wedding of Alex and Bethany. Look at that guy. Look at who did the first reading. Who is it? Or the crucifer. Carrying the crucifix.
James Rapp.
James motherfucking Rapp, baby.
Isn't that the name of Rapp's dad?
I have no idea.
No. It is. No?
We got Madeline Rapp on the first reading. Alicia Rapp reading the Psalms. Gotta love the Psalms.
Oh, someone...
I'm not kidding. Rapp.
Actually has a last name Rapp.
R-A-P-P. In that dance floor right now. No!
You gotta go talk to Dr. Grzan.
Dude, before the night ends, we are meeting...
The real Rapp family.
The real Rapp family. We have to ask them if they know anybody named Anna. Or Mitch. Or... That's it. Steven! There's no Steven listed here. But that dude carried the crucifix, and he carried it well, let me tell you. And she read the Psalms, Alicia Rapp. R-A-P-P. You see that?
We gotta go find him. Let's go.
We're gonna find him. Let me just piss first.